The jungle was loud. Strange birds screeched. Insects buzzed like machines. Giant trees stood tall, their roots twisting like snakes across the ground. Shadows moved where there should be none. Jaren, a human soldier, walked carefully through the thick vines. His gun was ready. His armor was scratched. He was alone. His mission was simple: recon and report. But nothing on this alien planet ever stayed simple. Then, he heard a sound. Not a growl. Not an animal. A scream. A girl's scream. He turned fast, running toward it. In a clearing ahead, the scene froze him in place. A young alien woman, slim, tall with glowing blue skin and silver hair, was on her knees. Her hands were tied behind her back. She looked terrified. 4 tribal warriors surrounded her. They wore red masks and bone armor. One of them held a long black spear, dripping with green poison. The leader raised it high. He was going to throw it, straight at her heart. Jaren didn't think. He didn't shout. He moved. He ran into the clearing, fast like fire, covering the space between them in seconds. The warrior saw movement too late. He threw the spear anyway. Too fast, too close. Jaren jumped forward and placed himself between the spear and the girl. Thunk. The poisoned spear slammed into Jaren's back, piercing his armor and cutting deep into his shoulder. His body jerked, but he stayed standing for half a second more. The girl gasped. His eyes locked with hers. He gave her a weak smile. Then his body dropped. The warriors stared, shocked. Then chaos broke out. The girl rolled to the side and kicked at the nearest one. She screamed something in her native tongue. They lunged to grab her, but she was fast. She grabbed the human sidearm from his belt and fired once into the dirt, not at them. A warning. The sound echoed like thunder. The warriors hesitated. That was all she needed. She vanished into the trees, dragging the unconscious human with her. Branches slapped her face. Thorns tore at her arms. But she didn't stop. Her breathing was heavy. Her heart was louder than her footsteps. She didn't know his name. She didn't know why he saved her. But she could not leave him behind. Not after that. Not after what he did. By nightfall, they reached a hidden cave. It was small and dark, hidden by moss and stone, a place known only to a few. She pulled him inside, laid him down. His face was pale. His breathing was weak. The green poison had already spread across his shoulder. She touched his forehead. It was burning. Tears filled her eyes. "You, stupid brave human," she whispered. Then she said something even quieter. "You don't even know I'm a princess." Hours passed. She cleaned his wound with herbs, mixed old forest roots into a thick paste, pressed it onto the cut. The poison hissed. He groaned in pain but didn't wake. She sat beside him, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. She watched his chest rise and fall. He had jumped into death without a name, without knowing her face, without asking who she was. He just saved her. Far away in the tribal camps, the warriors spoke in fear. Why did a human fight for her? Did he know? Was he sent by the old bloodline? They didn't know what to believe. But they knew one thing. The princess still lived. And now she had a human protector. Back in the cave, the girl finally whispered her name to the man who couldn't hear her. "My name is Leora," she said. "Daughter of Elian, last of the royal blood." She took his hand in hers. "And now, I owe my life to you." She wiped away a tear. "I just hope you survive long enough to learn who I really am." The rain began to fall, soft at first, then louder, beating against the jungle leaves like marching feet. Thunder growled in the sky. The fire inside the cave hissed and died. Princess Leora sat in the darkness, watching over the human who saved her. Jaren still burned with fever. His skin was pale and green veins ran down from the spear wound in his shoulder. She had done everything she could, but it wasn't enough. The poison was old, ancient, not something herbs could fix. He needed something more, something forbidden. Something kept inside the Temple of First Light, an ancient place even her people feared. Leora stood. Her body was tired, her clothes torn, but her mind was clear. "I won't let him die," she whispered. She tore a strip from her cloak, dipped it in cool water, and placed it on his head. Then she grabbed her dagger and turned toward the jungle. "I'll come back," she said softly to him. "You saved me without knowing my name. Now I will do the same." The Temple of First Light was not far, but the path was cursed. Vines twisted like claws. Stones bled red sap when touched. The air was filled with whispers, some real, some not. Therefore, Temple stood hidden beneath a waterfall carved into the mountain. It was shaped like a giant alien face, mouth open, as if ready to swallow anyone who entered. Leora stepped inside. Her boots echoed across cold stone. Faint blue light lit the walls. Symbols of the old world. Warnings. Stories of betrayal and sacrifice. At the center of the temple sat a silver bowl, floating in the air, untouched by dust or time. Inside it shimmered a glowing liquid, the tears of Almyra, an ancient cure said to fight any poison. Only royal blood could take it, and only at great cost. She approached. The bowl dropped into her hands, and pain shot through her chest like fire. Voice echoed inside the temple, deep and cold. "You take the cure and give your secret. He will live, but they will know who you are." She fell to her knees, gasping. But she didn't let go. "I don't care," she whispered. "They can know I'm the princess." Back in the cave, Jaren tossed in his sleep. His body shook. The poison had reached his chest. His breath was short, sharp. Then she returned, wet from rain, pale from the temple's toll, but alive. She knelt beside him and opened his mouth gently. "Drink," she whispered. The silver liquid slid down his throat. At first, nothing happened. Then his chest glowed faint blue, and the green lines faded slowly. His breathing calmed. The poison began to die. Leora fell back against the cave wall, too weak to sit up straight, but she smiled. "You're going to live," she said softly. "Now, everything changes." Elsewhere in the far city of Varathex, the royal guard stood in silence. Their scanners buzzed. An alarm blinked red. The Temple of First Light had been opened. By royal blood, a general stepped forward. "She's alive," another whispered, "and she has help." The general's eyes narrowed. "Then we hunt. Bring her back, dead or alive, and the human with her." Back in the cave, the storm passed. Jaren's eyes opened. He blinked. He looked at the ceiling, confused. Then he turned his head, and saw her sitting beside him, half asleep, breathing slowly. He whispered, voice dry, "You're safe." She looked at him, startled, but smiled. "You're the one who took a spear," she said gently. "And you're worried about me?" Jaren smiled weakly. "Worth it." He tried to sit up but winced. She helped him. Their eyes met. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. He still didn't know who she really was, but he knew this. She had gone into danger for him, just like he had for her. Far above them, the stars glowed faintly, but a shadow was moving. Now that the princess had revealed herself, the war would follow. The fever broke at dawn. Jaren woke up drenched in sweat, his chest rising and falling in deep, painful breaths. The pain in his shoulder had lessened, but something else still burned inside him. Memories. Not of the cave, not of the jungle, but of Earth, of war, of loss, of the day everything changed. He had been a soldier in the Outer Defense Corps, one of the last to fight before Earth fell silent. His squad had been ambushed on a frozen moon. His ship exploded. He was the only one who lived. And after that? Nothing. No. Orders. No rescue. Only exile, wandering from one dead planet to the next until now. He sat up slowly, wincing. "Careful," said a soft voice. He turned. Leora knelt nearby, stirring a pot over a small fire. She wore a new robe, dark green with gold patterns, and her silver hair was tied back. Her alien features looked gentle in the firelight, but her eyes held strength. "You were sleeping for 2 days," she said. "The poison almost won." Jaren touched his shoulder. "It still hurts." She handed him a cup. "Drink. It's bitter, but it helps." He drank. It was bitter. And it helped. There was a long silence. Then he asked, "Where are we?" "A hidden cave, south of the temple." His eyes narrowed. "You carried me?" She smiled. "I dragged you." He looked at her confused. "Why?" "You saved me." He shook his head. "I didn't even know who you were." "That's exactly why it mattered." She stood and walked to the cave's edge. The sunlight touched her face. "You shouldn't be here, Jaren, not on this world, not near me." "Why?" She turned to face him, and for the first time she said it out loud. "Because I'm a princess." Jaren stared at her. No laughter, no disbelief, just quiet realization. "That why they were trying to kill you?" She nodded. "The new leaders of my people want the old bloodline gone. I'm the last. They want the throne. I'm in their way. And they're hunting you now." "Yes," she said. "And now, they'll hunt you too." Jaren leaned his head back against the wall. He should have run, he should have let her die. But something in him, something broken long ago, wouldn't let him watch another innocent fall. Not again. "You should have told me," he said quietly. She sat beside him. "Would you have still saved me?" He looked into her eyes. "Yes." The cave was silent again. Then Jaren whispered, "I had a little sister once." Leora blinked. "What happened to her?" "She died," he said. "Sick, no medicine. Earth was already falling. I was off planet on patrol when she passed." He looked down at his hands. "I wasn't there for her, but I was there. For you." Leora placed her hand on his. "Maybe that's why I'm still alive." He smiled faintly. "You don't feel like a princess." She smirked. "Good. I don't want to feel like one anymore." Outside, a shadow moved through the jungle. Scouts. Tracking the princess's trail. Watching the cave from the trees. A voice whispered through a communicator. "She's alive." The human is awake, awaiting orders. Inside, Leora stood. "We can't stay here," she said. "They'll come." Jaren tried to stand. His legs were weak, but he managed. "I can fight." She looked at him. "You almost died." He met her eyes. "Then I'll almost die again." Leora smiled, but her heart ached. This man had no kingdom, no army, nothing left of the world he once knew. And still, he chose to fight for her. They packed quickly, just supplies, water, and weapons. Before they left, Leora looked back at the cave one last time. It was the place he nearly died, and the place they both came back to life. As they stepped into the jungle, she moved closer to him. "I never asked," she said, "what you want." Jaren didn't answer right away. Then he looked at her. "I want something worth bleeding for." She smiled. "Then stay close, because this world won't let us go easy." They disappeared into the trees side by side, and behind them the enemy moved. Faster now, because the human had survived, and the princess was no longer alone. The sky turned red. It wasn't the sunset. It was war smoke. Villages near the jungle, edge had already burned. Trees were cut, rivers poisoned, and in the air, something worse traveled. Hunters, silent, trained, loyal to the throne thieves who called themselves rulers now. Their orders were simple. Kill the girl, kill the human, burn their memory. Jaren and Princess Leora stopped at a ridge, looking down over a valley full of black grass and broken machines. Long ago, a battle had happened here. Now it was forgotten, but Leora knew this place. This was where my father fell, she whispered. Jaren glanced at her. Do you want to go around it? No. We go through it. They won't expect that. They moved quickly. Leora guiding through tunnels beneath old wreckage. Jaren limping but alert, rifle ready. What they didn't know was this. They were already surrounded. At the center of the valley, the trap snapped shut. 5 assassins appeared, each in red armor, masked, holding plasma spears that hummed with deadly energy. One raised his weapon. Royal traitor, come with us and we'll end you fast. Leora stepped forward. You already ended my family. The assassin laughed. And now we end your bodyguard. He pointed at Jaren. Jaren raised his rifle. Try it. The lead assassin threw his spear. Jaren rolled aside, his shoulder still stiff, but managed to fire a clean shot that blasted the spear midair. It exploded in a flash of blue light. Another assassin lunged from the left. Leora spun, slicing upward with her dagger, cutting through the attacker's armor. She didn't scream. She didn't hesitate. She fought like a soldier born from pain, but there were too many. One assassin kicked Jaren to the ground. Another smashed Leora's back with a shock baton. Jaren tried to stand, his body burning with pain. The leader walked toward him, raising a blade. You should have stayed dead, human. Jaren spit blood. Yeah, people say that a lot. Then, he grabbed the blade with both hands, bare, stopping the strike cold. The assassin's eyes widened. Jaren twisted. Snap. The blade broke. Jaren used the shard to stab upward, right through the attacker's mask. Blood sprayed. Leora, dizzy from the shock hit, looked up to see Jaren still standing, wounded, shaking, but alive, fighting. For her. She crawled to a fallen spear, grabbed it, and threw it with all her strength at the last attacker closing in. It pierced his chest clean. He dropped. Silence fell. Only wind remained. Jaren collapsed beside her. His voice was rough. You okay? She nodded. You're bleeding. So are you. They both laughed, weak but real. Why do you keep risking your life? She asked. Jaren looked at her, breathless. Because you never stop fighting. And I won't let that light go out. An hour later, they buried the bodies beneath broken ship metal. Jaren marked the graves with simple stones. Leora looked at him. You honor your enemies? He shrugged. No. I honor death, even if they didn't deserve it. She said nothing. Then quietly, if I ever take the throne, I want you at my side. He looked up. As what? She held his gaze. As whatever you want to be. That night, they rested in an old watchtower. Jaren stitched his wounds. Leora sat beside him, cleaning his knife. You're not like the others, she said. He smiled. I'm not sure I've ever been like anyone. She leaned her head on his shoulder. We survived the blood hunt. He rested his head against hers. We'll survive everything else too. But far away, a greater enemy watched the stars, and whispered, let them run, let them bleed. The real war hasn't even begun. The rebel camp wasn't in the trees. It was beneath the ground. Hidden under the shattered bones of an old starship, it was more bunker than city. Dark tunnels lit by flickering lights, air thick with steam and suspicion. Princess Leora and Jaren stood at the gate, dirty, bruised, silent, and watched by 24 armed guards. They weren't welcomed. They were judged. Lower your weapons, Leora said with royal calm. No one moved. One tall alien stepped forward. His face was covered in war tattoos. His voice was rough. You ran, princess, and you bring a human? This is the one they say jumped into death for you? Leora didn't flinch. He saved my life. Twice. The guard sneered. Many die for royalty. Doesn't make them worthy. Jaren stepped forward, wiping blood from his mouth. Then, Maybe next time. You should be the one who takes the spear. The guards shifted. Tension cracked the air. But the tattooed one raised his hand. Let them through. Inside, the camp was full of whispers. She returned. The bloodline isn't broken. But why is he with her? Leora led Jaren to the war chamber, an old control room turned council hall. 10 leaders sat there. Some loyal, some angry, all confused. She stood tall. I'm not here to beg, she said. I'm here to take back what was stolen. A councilwoman rose. You bring war with you. And hope. Another said, hope in the form of a human? Jaren crossed his arms. I didn't ask to be here. But you are, the elder said coldly. And now we must decide what to do with you. Later, in a quiet corner of the base, Jaren sat alone. His arms were bandaged. His heart felt heavier than before. He didn't belong here. Not among these aliens. Not among rebels. Not beside a princess. He was just a soldier from a dying world. Leora found him sitting on a broken fuel crate. You walked into a fire for me, she said softly. And now your people want to throw me back into it. She sat beside him. They're afraid. And when people are afraid, they hate what they don't understand. He looked at her. And you? I'm not afraid of you. That night, the camp was attacked. Explosions tore through the south wall. Smoke and screams followed. Jaren was the first to grab a weapon. He ran into the chaos without orders. He pulled 3 wounded rebels to safety, covered a mother and child with his body, shot 2 enemy drones out of the sky. He didn't wait to be trusted. He earned it. By morning, the attack was over, and so was the doubt. The same rebel who mocked him now placed a hand on his shoulder. You, fight like us, he said. Maybe better. Jaren looked at Leora. No, I fight for her. The council met again. But this time there was no protest. Only silence when the elder stood and said, he risked everything. Again. For people who never thanked him. I say we thank him now. They all turned to Jaren. The tattooed leader stepped forward and offered a symbol of the rebellion, a forged medallion of burnt steel. You're no longer just her protector. You are ours. That night, Leora and Jaren stood above the bunker, watching stars blink through broken clouds. She reached for his hand. You were right, she said. They didn't trust you, but now they do. I didn't come here to be accepted, he said. She looked at him. Then why did you come? He looked at her like she was the only thing left in the universe. To stay beside you. And in the quiet after battle, under a broken sky, the princess leaned into the arms of the human, who had become more than a bodyguard. He was now the reason her people still believed. The capital city of Zarethva had once shone like silver under the suns. Now it burned. Ashes floated through the sky like dead snow. The great spires were cracked. Giant statues of old rulers stood blackened, their faces scarred from fire and war. But at the center, still untouched, was the throne hall, and Princess Leora had returned. She didn't arrive with an army. She didn't wear golden robes. She wore scars, dust, and silence. And beside her walked Jaren. No crown, no title, just a rifle slung over his back and fire in his eyes. The gates opened for no one, but they opened for her. Inside the throne hall, hundreds of nobles and soldiers watched. Some whispered, some glared, but all stood frozen when she entered. At the far end stood the false regent, the man who had claimed her throne after her father's death. Tall, cold, dressed in silver armor that was never earned. He smiled, sharp and hollow. You survived, dear princess, how unexpected. Leora stepped forward. I didn't survive. I rose. His smile faded slightly. And you bring this? His eyes moved to Jaren. A human soldier? This is your chosen protector? Court chuckled. Leora didn't. She turned to the people. He took a poisoned spear meant for me. He bled beside me while others ran. He stood when you all bowed. This man is not just my protector. He is my choice. The silence turned. To murmurs, the regent raised his hand. You bring shame. Your father would never have allowed. My father is dead, she cut in. Because of you. The words hit like thunder. Gasps. Shouts. And then, weapons drawn. Jaren stepped in front of her. The court guard circled. The regent drew a blade, glowing with black energy. Then prove your blood is still strong, princess, he growled. Take back the throne with fire, or die beside this human. A circle formed. Leora pulled her dagger. Jaren pulled a short blade from his belt. Stand back, she whispered. I don't step back, he said. I stand with you. The duel began, fast, violent, beautiful. The regent moved with fury, magic and speed. But Leora moved with purpose. Every strike was earned, every cut a memory of the jungle, of her people, of what she lost. And Jaren? He fought the guards on the side, 4 at once. His blade flashed. His fists broke metal. His body moved like a storm. He bled again, but did not fall. Finally, the regent swung high for the kill. Leora ducked, spun, and drove her dagger into his chest. He gasped, eyes wide, and dropped to his knees. She pulled the blade free and whispered, This throne does not belong to liars. He fell, dead. The court stood frozen, until one by one, they dropped to one knee, not to fear, to respect. Leora walked up the throne. She did not sit. Not yet. She turned to Jaren. His armor was cracked. Blood ran down his side. But he stood tall. You're hurt, she said. You're queen now, he replied. I don't care about the crown, she said. I care about you. She faced the court. This man came from a broken world. He had no reason to fight for me. And yet he stood between me and death more than once, while many of you stayed silent. He is not one of you, but he is more loyal than any of you, and I will not rule without him. Gasps, whispers, resistance. One elder stood. He is not of royal blood. Leora raised her hand. I say this for all to hear. I choose him. Not as servant, not as guard, but as my equal. She reached for Jaren's hand. And if anyone thinks that makes me weak, she stepped onto the throne. Then watch how strong we become. The great bells of Zarethva rang, not for fear, not for warning, but for rebirth, and the people saw not just a queen, but the man she chose. The stars looked different from the throne, brighter, closer, as if the galaxy itself had finally opened its eyes. Queen Leora stood on the highest tower of Zarethva, her silver hair blowing in the wind. She wore no crown, only a simple robe of midnight blue. In her hands was a broken spear, the same one meant to kill her. Behind her, a soft voice spoke. That's the one, huh? She turned and smiled. Jaren stepped forward, now fully healed, dressed not in armor, but in clean dark fabric, given by the royal tailors. Still simple, still soldier, still hers. They tried to kill a girl, she said, and made a queen instead. Jaren chuckled. They tried to kill a stranger, and I got dragged into history. She held out the broken spear. He took it and stared at the tip. This almost ended everything, he whispered. But it didn't, Leora said. Because you jumped first. They stood together in silence, remembering the blood, the jungle, the fire, the journey. From strangers in chaos to something more. Days passed, then weeks. Leora ruled with calm strength. She broke the corrupt blood laws, freed forgotten villages, signed peace with outer colonies. She gave land to rebels who had nothing, and homes to humans who had nowhere to return. But every time she stood before the council, she stood with Jaren at her side. Some called him the Shadow King, others called him the Blade Guard. But to her, he was simply Jaren, not a king, not a prince, but the man who had carried her future in his arms when no one else would. One evening, after a long day of speeches, Leora sat on the edge of the royal garden fountain. Jaren walked over. Tossing her a piece of fruit, she caught it. "You didn't bow today?" she teased. "I don't bow to people I sleep beside," he said with a grin. She laughed. "Is it strange?" she asked. "That in a hall full of nobles, the only voice I trust is yours?" Jaren sat beside her. "You don't need 1,000 voices," he said, "just one that never lies." Later that night she brought him to the Vault of Echoes, a chamber filled with memory crystals of every ruler before her. She held out a crystal. "This one is mine," she said. "It holds my story, our story." She placed it into the wall. It glowed, and the voice that echoed was not just hers. It was his, too. In the years to come, stories would be told. Of a dying soldier who rose from a spear wound. Of a lost princess who walked through fire. Of two people from different worlds who chose each other over thrones and bloodlines, and built something new. Children in distant colonies would play games shouting, "I'm Jaren, I'll protect the queen." Alien girls with silver hair would whisper, "Be strong like Leora, be brave like her." And in places where humans were once hated, they became honored because one man stood still when the galaxy told him to run. One morning, many years later, Jaren stood in the garden, watching the sunrise. A young girl ran up to him, barefoot, laughing. "Papa, Mama says breakfast." He smiled. "Tell your mother I'm coming." The girl paused. "Were you really shot by a spear?" Jaren smiled gently. "Yes." "Did you cry?" He knelt beside her. "No, but she did." The girl tilted her head. "Mama?" "No," he said. "The queen." The girl giggled and ran off, and Jaren stood still, watching the light, the soldier, from Earth, the blade in the dark, the man who once had nothing, now had everything. Because once, he jumped in front of a poisoned spear, not knowing who she was, and she never let him go.